I was so nervous Michigan was going to get into the end zone because I do sportsbook, and I bet the under, and if Michigan had gotten in to the end zone, it would have cost me that bet. Let me start recording as well. Eventually, hopefully, they'll put Audition back on this computer where it works.
Yeah, I use a different recording software right now.
So we can hopefully get that. Alright, let's hope that works. Minute 20. I always hate talking after these songs. I wasn't born when they came out. I don't even know what they are. I heard them before.
Right there with you.
Pretty much whatever Google says is what as long as I can read. 50 seconds now. And we're still trying to find, because I know he normally comes in with the units before morning or before morning. For some reason, we cannot find that open for whatever reason. So we're
Whatever you want to play.
We're still working on getting everything imported.
It's alright. We'll get it all worked out.
Fingers crossed by 2021 we can get this all figured out. Yes. Alright, here we go, 10 seconds. Good morning, here with you on Giants FM. Thank you for joining us today. It is now time for the regularly scheduled Dick Belcher program with First Federal Savings Bank. However, a change-up, a curveball thrown today. Tanner Lee joins us. Tanner, are you ready to take over today? You are the man in charge.
I think so. They had to go way down the bench this morning and pull out the relievers. So.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you with us in studio. I'm sure you'll do a fine job.
I'm happy to be here. So. First federal show of 2020.
Let's go.
First show of the new decade.
Let's make it a good one.
Let's do that.
You are setting the precedent for the next 10 years of shows. So.
No pressure.
No pressure
Thank
at
you.
all.
Thanks,
the good news is Brian Johnson's also here to save us if we need a life.
Yeah.
So,
he's clutch. So.
Brian also
about that. But looking ahead in 2020, it's going to be a big year. We got Summer Olympics in Tokyo going on. It's always a big event. Presidential elections, of course. You got new movies coming out like you do every year, new music, new video game consoles even. So PlayStation 5 and Xbox are both going to come out with new consoles.
I've heard these are the last gaming systems that are ever going to be made.
Really?
Is what I've heard. I don't buy that because as long as there's money to be made off it, there's going to be a PS6, 7, 8, all the way up to 90.
Right now they're on like a 5 to 6 year rotation, it seems like. So. Be interested to see what those consoles can do compared to the last ones.
Have you seen the new designs for them?
I have.
Oh, they
different.
They look funky.
Yeah,
that's the only way I can think of putting them.
Yeah, definitely different. But where there's money to be made, they're going to find a way.
Sure.
Congratulations to all the elected city officials that were sworn in on New Year's Day. I know there was quite a few of them that were on the front page of the Rochester Sentinel earlier this week. So congratulations to them. Speaking of officials, I see that the Democratic primary race has already lost one of the candidates, Castro.
Another bow out, I believe.
Yeah. So I don't know how many they're down to now. Starting to kind of weed them out slowly but surely.
As a news guy, I should pay more attention to that, but I wait till November once we actually have the
That's
final
probably
two
smart.
candidates. Yeah,
probably smart.
I think Sanders is still in there, and I know Buttigieg is.
Yeah, Biden, of course.
Biden.
He's going to be there till the end.
And is it Warren?
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren.
Those are the core four, I think, that the Democrats are going to be relying on.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see when push comes to shove. So, got some trivia this morning with the College Football National Championship coming up. I don't know what it was about on the 13th, I believe. Monday the 13th. Yes. I want to know what college football team has the most national championships. And I will give you a hint. This goes back to 1869. I'll give you 3 guesses. Is it Alabama, Notre Dame, or Yale? And I'll let you think about that. I'll let you think about that.
I'm just letting you know, the fact that you threw Yale in there is throwing me off.
Well, that's what.
Because it's the one that you're like, well, it can't be Yale. Yale doesn't win national championships in football, but
I'll make you think a little bit.
all right, I'll get back to you on the end of the show.
Got some sports to review this morning. Locally, the Rochester boys basketball team got a win last night over Taylor High School by a score of 69-57. You were on the call last night.
Yeah.
Must have been a good game.
Yeah, it was a really good game, and I'll tell you what, that Taylor team is going to be good down the
They're
stretch.
pretty young.
Well, they're not necessarily young, but they're 0-6, but they don't play like they're 0-6. I mean, they've got some athletes out there. They were down by, I think, as many as 15 at one point, but they just started chucking up threes and, I mean, ripping the net in terms of, not even hitting the rim, but swooshing it through, essentially. So it was a good game.
And that was a game that was rescheduled, correct?
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be on the 29th, which was the day before the Bankers Life game.
Okay.
Got rescheduled to last night. So boys off until they play Whitco next Friday, a week from today.
Oh, it's a fun TRC matchup there.
Yeah.
Tippecanoe Valley is at Columbia City tonight. Winnemac, I believe, plays River Forest, and Argus hosts West Central. So plenty of boys basketball action going on locally. The girls are in action today. Rochester girls, they host Western. I think that game's at 1:30.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. 1
Yeah,
o'clock today. Interesting note about Western. Former Rochester Lady Zebra coach Lisa Pfluger is now their head coach at Western High School.
So
a little reunion there. And then they will also host Mishawaka later tonight. So big day / night, I guess, for the Lady Zebras. Tippecanoe Valley plays Lakeland. That will be tomorrow. And Winnemac is in a tournament today. They play McCutcheon and then Munster tonight. And Argus will be traveling to New Prairie tomorrow. So a lot of action going on locally, high school sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
College sports, got Big Ten Conference play is now officially resumed, I guess we could say. It already started last month for men's basketball. Purdue got a win last night over Minnesota, 83-78 at Mackey Arena in a double overtime game. My hair might look a little more gray this morning because of that game. Much needed win. Purdue really needed this one. They got a tough stretch coming up at Illinois Sunday, then at Michigan State at home, and at Maryland. So really needed this one. It was just a drag it out, kind of rock fight towards the end, back and forth, but they pulled it out. And like I said, now they travel to Illinois on Sunday, who lost to Michigan State last night by 20 points.
Purdue, if I'm not mistaken, that moves them to 9-5.
9-5. And Illinois is 9-5 as well.
They were Purdue was right about the same record last year. Now I'm not saying that means
another
Elite Eight run, because there's a certain number 3 jersey that's different this year.
And even no Ryan Klein and Grady Eifert. So, but this Purdue team is a very good defensive team. They do struggle at times on offense, but they shot the ball pretty well last night, so hopefully that's signs of things to come. So Illinois, 8 o'clock Sunday night. I believe that's a Big Ten Network game. And Indiana, 11-2. They travel to number 15 Maryland, who's also 11-2. That game is tomorrow. Notre Dame, 9-4. They travel to 8-5 Syracuse tomorrow. And the best team in the state, at least as of right now, number 11 Butler, who's 13-1. They host Creighton tomorrow, who's 12-2. So that'll be a good little Big East matchup.
Is Creighton ranked as well?
Not yet. They're knocking on the door.
They're receiving those.
Yep. Had a bowl game last night. Indiana played Tennessee in the Gator Bowl. Exciting game. Probably not the finish a lot of people around here were looking for, as the Volunteers came out victorious by a score of 23-22. Interesting stat here. Teams going into last night's game were 0-471 on the season, when down by at least 13 points with 5 minutes left. That stat changed to 1-471.
IU.
And IU has still not won a bowl game since 1991, which is still the longest drought for FBS teams.
And I believe also they were going for their first 9-win season since like 1967 or something like that. I mean, it's been a while.
It's been a long
since
time.
They've seen
Yeah.
I don't normally get on social media all that much, but man, Twitter's lively today.
It
talking
was.
about the Hoosiers.
Well, not only that, and Tennessee's got a diehard, almost kind of annoying at times fan base, so they didn't help the cause either.
Yeah.
So IU football is done for the year. Finished the year at 8-5. They open up next year at Wisconsin. All the Big Ten opens up with Big Ten matchups. Purdue plays at Nebraska, who our guest right here, Brian Johnson's a Nebraska fan. So
we'll
interesting week 1 matchup.
We'll have to have you on for an anniversary before that game. Yeah.
And speaking of Purdue football, real quick note, they do have a new defensive coordinator. They have hired Bob Diaco, who was the defense coordinator for Nebraska in 2017. He's been around a bunch of places, probably most notably Notre Dame from 2010 to 13. He was the defense coordinator.
When they went to the championship, right?
When they went to the championship in 2012, he was actually coordinator of the year. That defense had Monte Te'o and a bunch of skilled guys. So we'll see. A bunch of experience on the resume, so we'll see what happens. And Notre Dame beat Iowa State 33-9 in the Camping World Bowl over the past week.
Sure.
And lastly, got NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. Got tomorrow Buffalo Bills at Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans at New England Patriots, and then on Sunday you got Minnesota Vikings at the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks at the Philadelphia Eagles. Some good matchups there.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's your Super Bowl favorite right now, if you had to pick one?
But before the season, and I'm a Bronco fan, so it pained me to do this, but before the season, I picked the Chiefs over the Seahawks.
Okay.
So I'm going to stick with that just because I made that prediction, but the Purdue fan in me wants Drew Brees to win one.
I'm going to say I don't care who it is as long as it's not New England.
I would rather New England than Kansas City, but...
Really?
Yeah. But like I said, I'm a Bronco
You are
fan.
in the minority here.
I know. I'm a Bronco fan.
Brian,
so.
you have a pick to click for the Super
No,
Bowl?
I'm just saying Seattle. It depends on if they
Yeah.
decide to run or throw.
You're
Yeah,
still haunting them years later.
got
so.
Marshawn Lynch,
I don't know,
man.
It's hard to go against Kansas City.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's going to be fun playoffs to watch, though. I'm
Gotcha.
excited about it.
Mhm.
Got some tidbits here this morning. On this day in 1920, the New York Yankees purchased a player you might have heard of named Babe Ruth from the Boston Red Sox for $125,000.
And both those franchises were never the same.
No, they weren't.
Complete opposite direction.
On this day in 1938, the March of Dimes was established by FDR, still going strong today. On this day in 1947, the U.S. congressional proceedings were televised for the first time ever. On this day in 1959, Alaska became the 49th state of the United States. And on this day in 1973, the Columbia Broadcasting System, CBS, sold the New York Yankees to a 12-man group headed by George Steinbrenner for $10 million. He grew that empire just a little bit to what it is today.
Just slightly, yeah. I don't think he was ever hurting for cash
No.
there towards the end.
No, he was not. So, and today is the National Festival of Sleep Day. It's also National Chocolate-Covered Cherry Day and Drinking Straw Day. Interesting.
You mean drinking straws and putting a straw in your drink,
Yeah,
or
it's-
blending up straws and hay and drinking hay?
Your first option
Okay,
there, as
good.
in
Just
drinking
say
the
second
straw.
one, I'm not
No.
even try to attempt.
But yeah, instead of like straw drinking day, it said Drinking Straw Day was the title. So
Interesting.
yeah, interesting. They're always interesting national days.
January 3rd, I'll never forget it. It's
There you
Drinking
go.
Straw Day.
So make sure you drink with a straw today.
Sure.
Got some upcoming events going around the community. The Fulton County Public Library is holding a crafting and bingo activity night on Tuesday, January 14th. Crafting supplies will be available from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and bingo will begin at 6 p.m. for ages 18 and older. Prizes will be awarded to the winners. So sounds like a fun time. Mark your calendars down. I saw that in Rochester Sentinel the other day, so congratulations to him. In money news, the Dow closed out last night at 28,868. So the futures were already down this morning, down to 343. I'm guessing that was due to the situation going on over in Iraq and Iran. And I saw fuel prices are up with the airstrike and everything. So, but as Mr. Belcher always says, the Dow's either going to go up or down today. It's going to do something. So we'll just have to wait and see. And today, come see us at First Federal as we're open until 5 p.m. And tomorrow we're open from 8:30 to noon. And you can always bank with us online and with our mobile app, which is free to download in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Our ATM is open 24/7 as well if you need some cash. We offer many different mortgage products: USDA, FHA loans, conventional loans, one-step construction loans, premier first-time homebuyer loans, and more. Our loan originators, Ben Dalton and John Schaefer here in Rochester, can provide you with more details. Just stop in and see them today. We offer Simply Free checking accounts and Simply Free business checking accounts. When you open up a new checking account right now, you get a free gift. You get a selection of one of two gifts. You can get a Squish knife set or a DeWalt multi-tool set. You could also refer a friend and get a gift. So if you have a
Hey Brian, if you're looking for a bank account, I know someone.
I've already got a couple.
Oh
of
shoot.
So if you have a friend that's looking to maybe make a switch with their account or open up an account, refer them to First Federal. And not only will they get a gift for opening an account, you get a gift for referring them. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
We also offer commercial lending for businesses. Contact Lindy Breeden for more information. And we offer financial services. Contact either Mark Bluebowl or Brian Bell today for more information. Find us on social media. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Banking. And we're also active on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. Borrowers must meet underwriting guidelines. We're a member FDIC and an equal housing lender. And our NMLS number is 399927. All right, that brings us to our meat of the program this morning.
Sure.
We got Brian Johnson, Director of Development of the Fulton County Community Foundation, joining us this morning. Brian, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me this morning.
So, how long have you been with the foundation?
Well, I've been with the foundation a little over 12 years.
12 years.
And it's been a good time. Really experienced some neat things in that time.
So, with your position, you focus just on Fulton County, not on Stark and Miami County.
Yes, yeah, which are part of the Northern Indiana Community Foundation. We get that question all the time. Well, it's the Northern Indiana, it's the Fulton County, and my answer is yes. We're all part of one organization, but all three counties combine and really make a stronger organization as a combination.
So, what's going on with the Community Foundation?
Well,
early
we've got a
2020?
few things. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you. We had a very good end of the year. We had a very good Giving Tuesday, as John experienced. We were able to wrap up the match that Lilly Endowment offered us, raised $250,000 locally for community funds. That turns into $500,000 from Lilly Endowment, and between our $250,000 and their $500,000, that turns into about $30,000 in additional grants every year. So thank you to everybody who helped support that. I guess my next challenge is if you're listening, think of ideas that could be useful in our community. We're getting to the point where we've been able to make some significant grants, and we tell people, think about what would really solve the problem. Not just, hey, I can get by with this. I've got a project. I could probably make it happen with this. Think big picture. Think, I'd really like to make an impact. I'd really like to solve this issue. And that's kind of where we're encouraging our community to think about. Those conversations usually take a while. There's some projects that we've been talking with groups 2 or 3 plus years as they think about projects change, opportunities change. And so we're trying to encourage folks, think about those big picture types of things. What would really the ideal situation look like?
In the time frame for getting something going like that, does it just depend on the project itself?
It depends on the project. I mean, we have some projects that we worked with 3 or 4 years. Sometimes you get into the situation of things like permits, or sometimes projects change in the middle of them. We've had opportunities where organizations have applied for a grant, been awarded for it, and then something significant happened with the project, whether a new opportunity or maybe a change of direction. So those things are things that happen when you start talking about significant projects. So I don't know that we can say, hey, these projects all happen in 6 months. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you look at projects and you say, you know what, this is maybe a 5 or even a 10-year project for this to happen. But so I don't know, with these significant types of grants, there's not really an outline as far as saying, hey, in 6 months you should be done with this project. But when you're making a big change, it takes a while sometimes just to get everything in line, and we really encourage folks, think about it and don't be afraid. We're not going to say, hey, if you don't have this done in 6 months, we want our money back. No, we want to help you be successful in a project, and if that means maybe changing direction or something like that. But really the first step is thinking about it, dreaming about it. What does it look like to really have something that solves an issue? One of the early on ones was the animal shelter that we have here. That was one of our first grants, and that project changed throughout the course of the project, and we have a wonderful facility, wonderful staff that does so much good for animals in our community. So those are the kind of things that we encourage folks to think about. So.
The one I saw on your website that I'm guessing probably maybe had changed course over the time was the Blackadder Sports Complex.
Yeah, that's one that we actually were able to help fund and get that organization going early on. But last year, that's an example. It probably took 6 or 7 months to get to the point of even applying for that grant application, and it was a conversation back and forth. That project kind of changed throughout the process as far as specifics, but really the whole goal of having a concession stand and restroom facilities, which are so much better than what they had. Also, some wastewater treatment facilities for the base or for the softball out there. And I always encourage folks, if you haven't been out there during a soccer night or a softball weekend, go out there and my challenge is try and find a place to park.
Yeah,
You see how much it's used, and it's just one of those wonderful facilities that we have. And that organization took the reins and ran with it and did a good job of getting some additional facilities for a very used facility in our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speak with Brian Johnson, Director of Development of the Fulton County Community Foundation this morning. A few other things I saw on your website that I kind of wanted to ask you about. The Youth Development Summit and the Healthy Mobile Market.
Yeah, we've been working, part of what we've been working with Lilly Endowment on is part of the fundraising piece that we've talked about was matching community funds, but they also wanted us to do some kind of more community leadership, community development ideas. So we've been bringing organizations together. We've been actually doing a food pantry summit where we brought together food pantries and resources that they may find useful. This year we worked with the youth summit that you mentioned. We brought in a gal that has a successful program in Stark County, and we're able to bring in folks from Fulton County. Of course, we have the Outlet Youth Center going on right now, which we're fortunate to be able to grant to. But really put people in the same room, share ideas, collaborate, and it's interesting and exciting to see the ideas that come out of those, some resources through those connections. So following that, we're able to grant to the Outlet, provide them a $5,000 grant as they're in the process of remodeling a youth center. And also transportation was another piece that we were able to bring together some of our area. We're very fortunate. I don't think folks in our community realize how fortunate we are to have the transportation system that we have, and we're looking at ways to maybe better support that as well. But part of what Lilly Endowment did was they wanted us to look at some needs in our community. So we're actually getting close to releasing a needs assessment that we're able to complete, had some community leaders involved in that, also had a survey throughout the community. And one of the things that did come up to the top in that was youth activities. How do we encourage, how do we support youth, how do we provide positive activities that give them goals, give them something to do, give them the support that they need outside of the school system, things like that. So that's been kind of a quiet piece that we've been working on, but I guess more details to come in the near future on that as we look at that. But it was interesting to hear the feedback from community leaders and what they're seeing as needs and being able to actually already start addressing some of those situations as well. So we'll be working on that more in the very near future as well.
So you're one of the 94 community, or actually 3 of the 94 community foundations throughout the state.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, they can give by way of grants, scholarship funds. I read also real estate, or IRA rollover, and they're playing gift.
Yes. Yeah. I usually tell people the only thing that you need to have to make a gift is intent. Part of what a community foundation is set up to do is so that folks that are not independently wealthy can give and make an impact. So my $100 gets pooled with everybody else that gives, and then we can make significant grants like Blacketer that turn out to be $61,000. I couldn't help make that grant all on my own, but as a community, I can help make a part of that grant and be able to give away significant. When we start talking about grant dollars this year, we're probably going to have over $200,000 in grant dollars to give away just in grants. So it's neat to see how those resources are able to pool together and make a bigger impact as a whole. So
So if anybody's looking to get more involved or has an idea, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can always check out our website, nicf.org. I'll put a little plug in for scholarship applications. Those are available right now. Students have until February 3rd to complete those. You can always give us a call, 224-3223. Find us on Facebook, Northern Indiana Community Foundation. We post about all 3 counties, or our office is located just down the road from the bank, 227 East 9th Street. We always welcome ideas or questions. A lot of the projects that we see around our community started out as an idea of somebody saying, you know what, why don't we have this? And the idea blooms from there, and somebody gets involved and says, hey, I really want to make a difference.
It's really neat to see a total team effort come to light like that and get things done.
And we have a very generous community, and that's what makes us all work.
Mm-hmm. Well, Brian, thank you for everything you do for the foundation and everything for the community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Our trivia question this morning was, what college football team has won the most national championships? Alabama, Notre Dame, or Yale?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say Bama.
I'm going to have to say Notre Dame, although I really feel like the answer should be Yale, because I feel like they were one of the earliest college football programs.
It is Yale with 18 since 1869. Alabama's actually got 15.
So how many of those were before 1900?
Oh, quite a few.
Yeah, those are the games that were finishing like 3-2.
Yeah, Princeton was up there on the list. Then you had Notre Dame, Michigan, USC, kind of more modern teams. But yeah, I would never guess Yale.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have fallen for the trap like I did and guessed Bama.
That's why I did it. So,
dang it.
And we're going to close with some words of wisdom from Oprah Winfrey. Thought this was fitting with the new year. She says, cheers to a new year and another chance for us to get it right.
Absolutely. Tanner, thanks for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me, John.
Ryan as well. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, those are all